You wake up when your body is ready. No alarm, no schedule, no glass rectangle glowing on your bedside table, no notification waiting for you like a hungry animal in the dark. Just the sound of your own breathing and the faint, distant rhythm of the city outside your window. It is 2026, and the world—
In the early days of computing, machines used thousands of vacuum tubes. This led to a massive problem.
cheaper than a cup of coffee, and it is the reason your reality looks absolutely nothing like ours. So before your day begins, you need to understand exactly what was lost. It starts in the 1940s, inside a building the size of a city block in Philadelphia. The machine is called ENIAC. It weighs 30 tons, fills an entire room with floor-to-ceiling panels of wires and dials, and runs on more than 17,000 glass bulbs, each roughly the size of your fist. When it operates at full power, the heat it generates is tremendous. Engineers wear oven mitts just to handle the components. These glass bulbs are called vacuum tubes. They work by heating a thin metal wire inside an airless glass shell until it glows red, releasing a controlled stream of electrons. Foundation of every calculation. As technology historian Thomas Haig documented in his research on early computing, running ENIAC for 5 minutes without a tube failure was considered a success. Engineers spent hours crawling through the machine on their hands and knees, hunting for the single. They gave this problem a name, the tyranny of numbers. You need more power, so you add more tubes. But the more tubes you have, the more that fail. And so the very act of scaling up makes your machine slower, less reliable, and ultimately less useful than the one you started with. By the late 1950s, until two men working separately looked at a thin sliver of purified silicon and had the same idea. Jack Kilby at Texas Instruments, Robert Noyce at Fairchild Semiconductor. In 1958 and 1959, independently and almost simultaneously, they figured out how to print an entire circuit onto a single piece of semiconductor material. Resistors, they had solved the tyranny of numbers by making the numbers invisible. But in your world, they failed. A contamination problem in the silicon, a funding cut, a patent dispute that dragged on for a decade and killed both projects. It does not matter which. A compact pneumatic tube receiver connected to the city's municipal press network, staffed by dozens of human editors on the early shift. There are no algorithms deciding what you should care about. The editors did. Their names are printed at the top of every section. You know exactly who is responsible for what you are reading. There is an earthquake in Japan. You are reading about it 14 hours after it happened. Outside, the city is full of noise. The clatter of relay switches inside the giant telephone exchange buildings that dot the skyline. Without microchips to manage call routing digitally, every phone connection must be made by hand. Thousands of human operators sit at switchboards inside those buildings.
In the late 20th century, you couldn't just tap a screen to make a call. You actually had to schedule long-distance calls a day in advance.
Here is what the history books in your world say about technology in the late 20th century. It pushed everything else to its absolute physical limit. Analog computers, machines that compute by manipulating continuous physical quantities. Like historian Paul Ceruzzi has written about how without the Apollo guidance computer, which relied on integrated circuits, the moon program would have needed a different solution, and it would have found one. Your world reached the moon in 1978. The spacecraft weighed twice as much. The navigation system was a room-sized analog brain, spinning gyroscopes and mechanical integrators that computed orbital trajectories through physical rotation. 3 astronauts made the trip. When they came, but the most profound change is not in the machines. It is in who controls them. In our world, the microchip made computers cheap enough for a single person to own, small enough to fit in a pocket. That shift, from room-sized institutional machines to personal devices, was a redistribution of power that had never happened before in human history. In your world, that redistribution never occurred. Computers remain institutional objects. There are roughly 40,000 computers operating in your country. They are owned by governments, universities, major banks, and in your world, that experience belongs entirely to institutions. Information is centralized. And yet, there is something else that is also absent. There are no algorithms tracking your movement through the city. No cameras scanning your face in the subway. Your government cannot surveil you at scale. It is simply the default condition of being alive. People have adapted, the way humans always adapt, to the reality available to them. When they have dinner with someone, the dinner is the only thing happening. A radio in your home is not a throwaway device. It is a piece of furniture with a maker's mark. It was repaired twice. Your grandfather bought it. The repairman who fixed it knows your family by name. Your technology has memory. Your objects have histories. But it also kills you, not you personally necessarily, but people. Many people who could have been saved. Without modern computation, drug discovery is painfully slow. The process of sequencing a genome, which dollars, Would in your world require years and enormous institutional resources. Food spoils at higher rates in transit. Cancer survival rates are measurably lower. The supply chain that feeds your city operates on paper records and the judgment of experience. You pass a repair shop where a man in his 60s bends over a workbench using a magnifying lens to replace the tube inside a radio. You pass a telephone exchange building. Through a ground floor window, you can see the switchboard room. Dozens of operators, headsets on, working in shifts. Some of them are laughing at something. One of them is eating a sandwich. You get home. You eat dinner without looking at a screen. After dinner, you sit in the quiet for a while. No notifications arrive. No one needs you. The evening is entirely yours. You could read. You could think. You could simply sit with the silence and let it be silence, not something to be filled. A researcher at a university in your world picks up a thin sliver of purified silicon, and she thinks, what if the electrons do not need the glass tube at all? What if they can move through the crystal itself, controlled by tiny impurities, switching on the exact same revolution, from the exact same idea arriving at the exact same destination? Because some ideas do not belong to one inventor. They belong to the moment humanity becomes ready for them. You reach over to your bedside table. You wind the brass key on your alarm clock, 3 rotations. You feel the spring tighten inside the casing. You turn off the light. And in the dark, in the quiet, with the mechanical city ticking faintly outside your window, you close your eyes. You wake up when your body is ready, or when the clock decides you are. Tonight, for the first time in a long time, you are not entirely sure which one you prefer.